Traders and investors, welcome to Wednesday's edition of Benzinga's pre-market info, brought to you by Options House. Joe, how you doing this morning?
Pretty good, Wacky Wednesday, but actually it's pre-market prep, Joel, not
Pre-market
pre-market
prep. Oh, I,
info.
I did
I
get the,
knew this day was forthcoming. I knew it was going to happen. No
every.
worries, though, Joel. No worries. We'll get there. We'll just have to tattoo it on your forehead or something.
I make so few mistakes around here that when I do,
I
when
know
I d-
this is truly monumental.
monumental. So Joe, you're not gonna be able to get your smokes at CVS anymore.
I don't smoke, Joel.
Either do I. Hey, CVS, how about that news, huh?
October 1st, no more tobacco sales in CVS Caremark stores. And Helena Folks is on CNBC right now, CVS Pharmacy president, discussing the matter. No more tobacco sales, Joel. So who's going to follow suit next? Who do you think? Let's make a bet. Who do you think will be the next one to announce that they are no longer selling tobaccos in their stores?
Well, I know who it's not going to be.
Who's it?
It's not gonna. It's not gonna be Walgreens.
No, why not?
Oh, because man, they're gonna capitalize this. They're actually gonna double up on their cigs. I don't know. I mean,
You think
this is
Walgreens is going to rally off this
the
then?
WSJ, there's an article I was reading this morning from the WSJ that came out within the hour and speculating, let me find it here, who's going to follow suit next. Well, Walgreens is listed, Rite Aid, and Walmart. CVS is putting pressure on main rivals to adopt similar measures.
wow.
That's from the Wall Street Journal. So I still, who's it going to be? Who's going to beat him? Who's going to beat him to the punch?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, when they see what happens to the CVS stock today, maybe no, it has bounced back a buck
It's
here.
bouncing back, Joel. It is bouncing
But
back.
you know what? You know what's really interesting about this, guys?
What?
Who did we have on a guest a couple weeks ago?
Oh, that
Oh,
one
I know
guy.
what
What
you're
was
gonna
his
say.
name?
Good old
Algie? No.
Ronnie.
Ronnie Moss. That's what it was.
Yeah, and
This is
he-
kind of
Maybe
a
they were
moral.
listening to the broadcast and they
I-
were listening and they thought, well, Philip Morris is going to end up going to zero. We better get rid of the cigarettes too out of our store. We might go to zero as well.
hey, everyone's making fun of him, and he did it based on his moral standards here. But I just think it's very interesting that a major company like this has filed suit. I mean, it's really it's really a precedent, and I'm not sure who's going to file suit. But Dennis, let's just take a look before we go to the S&Ps here. And that initial news came out. They pounded the CVS down here, and it's bounced back a little bit. I mean,
Bounced back a lot.
it did.
Get bid up almost. Now, 65.56 with a big bid for 4,000 shares there now. Where'd it get down to, Joel?
I mean, I see 64 is like might have been an odd lot there, but
I see 1, 2, yeah, you're right. 200 and some odd shares traded down at 64, so very light volume.
Uh, and if it's interesting here, I love when you see news like this come out, and then you go and you look at the daily chart. Okay, and this thing, it was sitting on some major support here, really super major support here. Had some lows at in the 65 area, right around 65, 68, 71 there. Perfect double bottom. Looks like little anticipation. They hit it down, came back up. That's going to be a huge level. We are trading it below right now, but I think if they can get above 65, 71, back over the 66 hurdle, they'll construe this as good for the company.
How can it be really good for the company? That's what I'm understanding. Is everybody going to go shop more at CVS because they don't sell cigarettes there? Does that really affect the, I can't see how it helps the company. I just can't see from a
Because you
financial
got
standpoint.
people that are like, hey, tobacco has been, is a killer, this, that, and the other thing. They're taking a moral stand on this. I like
I'm
this.
going to shop there.
I'm going to shop there, I guess.
I
No.
don't
Do
know.
we have
I
enough
don't
moral
know.
people in the world that are really going to make that decision to make the difference?
That's
Question.
I'm just giving.
that's what Ronnie would hope for.
It's just.
Maybe we do. Maybe that whole thesis works because it's only down 60 cents here now, folks. It's trying to come back here. What if it goes up on the day? What if it closes up like $2 or something like that? Will all the other ones then want to do it too? Will Walgreens do it and will Rite Aid do it if it's going to propel the stock higher?
I don't know. It should be an interesting day, but nevertheless, it's monumental and good for them. I mean, I think it's a solid move. But let's move on to the index here.
Wait, let's just look at Philip Morris though
Oh, okay.
and Mo. Are they going to move off of this too? I mean, here's somebody
They
not
are.
selling tobacco, and I do see Philip Morris trading
That
down 50 cents here this morning. Now we are down 5 on the S&P futures. With fair value, we're down 8, so that actually is probably in line with fair value. But what do you think here on the Philip Morris? Is this going to get a little bit whacked on this news?
I think I would have listened to Ronnie when he was out. We should just listen. We should have a.
It keeps going down every
I
day.
know.
Yeah, you're
We,
right.
we should
Just
have a guest portfolio, and it's just like, okay,
that's a good idea.
Sozzi says short JC Penny. We short JC Penny. Only take the short recommendations. And Ronnie here on this, he was talking when this thing was in the 80s. I don't think it's had an update since then, but it is trading down. Spotty trades here in the pre-market, approaching levels that it hasn't seen since 2012. You had a low in the 75 area back in February of 2012 at 75.15. That's still another stick away from here. That's what I'm looking at for major support in Philip Morris.
Also, RAI, let's look at Reynolds America. That stock actually has been drifting down a lot too. It kind of put in a double bottom there yesterday, 46.91, 46.93, but is offered down here this morning as well. Just 70 shares have only traded this morning, so very light volume. But 47.32 it's offered at, nobody's sniffing him. Somebody is bidding down at 46.89, looking like they're trying to pick up off that double bottom there. But what do you think? You think we're going to see some follow through on some of these stocks? Because this is only down 17 cents right now.
Yeah, I mean, you can always hop on the laggard here. I'd rather short this thing. Is it already through yesterday's low here?
No, maybe wait for it to go through there, eh?
Yeah, 46.91, 46.93. That's a double bottom here. But hey, Dennis, the guys are piping up in the chat room over this, and I don't. Is J Dot? Is he serious about that? Let's see, news ahead that Altria has bought a company, a green company.
That was a press release that they had out a few days ago. I could go pull it up really quick, but I don't know. Like I was saying, I think that they've had the rights to marble green for some time, so I don't know if that's exactly too
All
breaking or anything like that.
from the Benzinga Pro 2 days ago, Altria announces deal to buy e-vapor of green smoke. What is
Gotcha.
green smoke?
So it must be some kind of vaporizer, I guess.
Well, you know what CVS is doing? They're clearing out the cigarette shelves so they can put hooch on them.
Huh. Huh.
And
well, now all their moral customers just went out the door again.
Yeah, all right. Don't mix my arguments
We're
here.
starting bad rumors here now. Here's CVS trying to do something good, something ethically correct, which we don't see from the big multinational corporations that often. And you're dicing them and saying that they've got ulterior motives on this.
Okay, let's end on a good note because I like what DJ has here, and he says that in the end game they're going to be a better position with Walgreens United to strike deals with metal groups and insurance companies here. So that's
Great call.
Yeah, way to go, DJ. That's an underlying great call.
And CVS did actually have some guidance related to this. They said that they expect the ending of this tobacco sale to affect 2014 EPS by about 6 to 9 cents. So they sort of have already done some analysis on this, and apparently they wouldn't have done it if they thought it was going to be a big enough drag.
Okay. Let's big enough drag. I got
I
that.
know, I had to laugh at that one.
Oh, you guys are making my puns look good. Well, let's move on to the S&Ps, Dennis. And I'm sure you're not as hungry as you were yesterday because you're lighter 2 lunches, and I really had to work you on that one. But I got it to my advantage. I had a big lead. I think what caught you off guard is that I was a little bit bullish the market, and that you didn't like that. And
I know.
so
I'm never used to you being bullish, so I just fade you. So you were
It's
bullish,
been
so I was
working.
just fading Joel on this move. You really suckered me into that bet though, because we were up there like 1742, and you're like, and you're taking me on. You offer me the odds, and I was a little bit bearish, and I thought we might pull back and give that back, even though I was bullish because I said we're going to close the day higher. I thought we were going to have a washout off the bat. We tried in the first few minutes. We came down 5-6 points in the first 10 minutes of trade. I was like, here it is, come to Papa, 6 sandwiches, come to Papa, and then it just they started coming in and buying it too soon. It didn't get down to my level where I needed to get to. 1732. The PB stock started rallying. I was looking at that when they thought that the market was coming in, but then it started selling back off because now you only owe me one lunch there.
Now you got interesting formation in the S&Ps now too, because you had the two lows at 32 and a quarter and 34, and then I also like to keep an eye on the intraday low. That would be the low from 9:30 to 4 a.m. And the intraday low from yesterday was 38.75. We just snuck below that here, so we are coming up on a major level for the S&Ps to determine if the bottom is in of this, if this is the buy the dip and the dip is already in and it's time to buy, or it's going to be a dip and a rip south. And we'll see. We'll see if that 32 and a quarter holds up today.
What about this natural gas? I mean, it's been freezing here. This was kind of a predictable trade almost. We knew how cold the winter was, but UNG has just been on fire. It is up another buck here this morning again. Every day I come in, this thing seems to go up $1. We were at $19 on the UNG just 2 weeks ago. We are now at 27.29. Natural gas on fire.
Is it okay if I start out with the gas futures here,
You can
Dennis?
do it that way too if you
Yeah,
want to do
yeah,
it that
and
way. Go to the gas
and
futures.
without Googling it, they're called the Henry Hub Natural Gas Futures. Without Googling it here, J. Dot and DJ, tell me who Henry Hub is, because I mean, natural gas has been along a long time. But here, I got the chart up here of the natural gas that's had a nice rally. I mean, it's kind of one of these trades that makes sense, right? That, with all the cold weather here, making a new high for the move here in natty gas. Exceeded, you had a double top there that you took out at right at the 548 level. Now you've climbed up to 555. Let's take a look, a historical perspective here. The weekly doesn't do anything. Monthly, though, I mean, natural gas has been a lot higher than this. If you go back a few years here, going back, you have to go back to the end of 2011. It traded up to the 567 level. So that's a ways away from here. This thing moves in a lot of ticks, but boy, it's on fire. This thing has been back in '08, '09. Back in June of 2008, it was up at over $20 here. So that's kind of a good looking chart on the monthly, isn't it, Dennis?
Yeah, it is. You got to be careful though if you're playing this product by buying the UNG because remember that thing rolls. They continue to buy next month's futures always, and those are expiring, so they always have that premium that's getting sucked out of it, and that's what actually
Good
drives
point.
it down. And it doesn't exactly perform as well as natural gas does. Short term, you're okay with that. If you're going in for a trade, for a day trade, it's an okay vehicle. Long term investment though, that UNG not that good of a long-term investment on the natural gas plays, just because of the whole sucking out and the rolling of the futures contracts.
Interesting. This stock 27.05 was the prior high of the move, and in the pre-market trading, let's see if we've been able to get to that level yet. Yep, 27.21. We've taken that out. So in our uncharted territory here for UNG.
J Dot's piping in with an answer in the chat there for your question, Joel.
He's the guy who invented Hubba Bubba Bubblegum. And he didn't use Google for that. I would not say that.
Oh, you don't know the answer.
No, I don't. I don't know the answer. I asked Joe, and maybe we can get someone to Google it now.
Maybe he did. Maybe he did invent Hubble Bubble Bubblegum. I don't know about that one. Let's move on to a few earnings plays here because we got a few big ones here that reported. A couple last night, a couple big guns this morning. Let's start with Buffalo Wild Wings. They reported earnings here last night. Kind of a choppy fest there for Buffalo Wild Wings. Actually, just looking at the earnings report here, $1.10 versus $1.07. 341.5 million versus 346.8 million. So they beat on the bottom line, missed on the top line. It's kind of been a wild after hours market in BWLD. What's the highs and the lows from the after hours there, Joel?
There was a huge spike in it up to 151.88. I
Whoa.
mean, one bracket 151.88, 135.03. So that
Wow. Look at
yeah,
that 151.88 number that it went to, too. Look how many highs. If you go back into November, into December, into January, we kept topping out just
wow.
under 152. What do we do on the earnings report? We top out right under 152. These big levels, folks, they sometimes work like a charm, and they would have worked like a charm if you were shorting that thing after hours. Would have worked out well.
Yeah, I mean, Joe kind of had the right call, kind of the wrong call. We made that bet going into the Super Bowl.
You
Uh,
got bets so many different places, Joel. So what
yeah,
was the bet? What was that bet?
well,
Did you win
he's
that one, or
I
you're in
won
debt
that
there
one.
too?
This was a really good one. I made it when I went there and I didn't like the wings. They were really skimpy wings, just no chicken on them, just all bone. And he was like, "Oh, you can't short it going ahead into the Super Bowl. It always rallies." And I said, "The wings are terrible." I took one. He had 152 and I had one. Oh, we only did five. Yeah, 10 points. He had 152 and I had 132. And lo and behold, it did get down to that area, not by much. It just missed a 152 a couple times, and then it come down, came
It
down.
must by like a tick.
Yeah, and then yeah, I had an offer in there, but
You were holding it down.
you know what's interesting? If you look at this, it had the gap up, the huge gap up. That must have been on earnings as well. Back in October, had a gap up between 129.81 and 137.06, and then it comes down on that huge decline, and it got within a point of filling that gap here. So for all intents and purposes, it did fill the gap. Now it's just trying to trading flat, isn't it, Dennis? Maybe up a little bit here.
Very quiet.
Yeah, up $2. Let's just take a look at yesterday's range. 142 even was the high. We are trading above that, so I'd say it's good to go to the upside as long as we hold 142. Next resistance point is the 143.84 high, and that's a little bit better number because it's confirmed by a high in the 17th at 144.21.
Let's look here at Merck. They reported here this morning. Actually, the earnings here kind of were disappointing, I thought. It just came in line, 88 cents versus 88 cents, and 11.32 billion versus 11.36 billion. The guidance was kind of just in line too. Analyst estimates at 347. They're saying they're looking at 335 to 353 for the full year. So that's all kind of just in line. I was shocked when the stock popped big time on this. It actually went up all the way up to 55.51, which would have put it up $2. It's starting to come back in here now. It's starting to trade, just traded $54. So it's actually giving back $1.50 of the gains. It's still trading green here, but interesting that the company just reports pretty much mediocre earnings, but the stock really pops.
Yeah, but it's giving it back. So with that is not a good sign here. So pulling back, well, I just pulled back to the $54 level. So I will keep an eye on that as a minor support point. It held up really good on Monday when the market sold off here. Closed right at an important resistance area. Had three of the last four highs between 53.48 and 53.67. So I call that the minor support 54, major support 53 and a half. We break down below 53 and a half, and I think they're going to sell the news on this. Coming back on the upside, I'm going to ignore that 55.50 print, and if it really goes into major rally mode, 54.10. Did you notice any size? I mean, it got through 54 yesterday, or a couple
I see
days ago.
20,000
Not
there. That's
much.
not very
Okay.
much, though. So 54 is not very much. But 55, I wonder if there's going to be some size up there because that's a number it hasn't been to. And oh boy, we got to go way back to the monthlies to even find that. 2008, we haven't been since $55. So I bet 55 is a little bit thicker than 54 will be.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna see. I don't think you're gonna see it today because I think the spoos are down 8 here. The stock's been yo-yoing around here. I don't think you see. You want to do a little 55 versus a little
You're
bit.
trying to sucker me into more bets. I'm not listening to you.
Okay.
And here we've got the S&P futures just trying to sell off here 3-4 points. Just since you made that bet, you're trying to get that and pull the wool over my eyes on this S&P futures sell off here. Give me the high end when this everything else is
I'm
tanking.
just asking, Dennis. Jeez.
Yeah, I can't trust you at all right now. Actually, there was one other headline from Merck which broke at 6:42. Merck confirms collaborations with Amgen, Incyte, and Pfizer to evaluate a novel combination anti-cancer regimens with MK3475. So a little bit of drug news from Merck here as well, which might have been helping it to pop. When did it actually start popping? Because the earnings broke slightly after that drug news. Do you see on the chart when actually Merck, the pre-market chart, can you break it down into 20-minute
Well,
segments or?
the big bar was between 7 and 7:15.
No, that's
So
on the earnings. So that is
yeah,
on the earnings because the
yeah.
earnings broke right around 7 o'clock, where that drug news broke about 6:20 this morning. So there wasn't a pop up at 6:20 this morning then.
Nope, nope, not that I
Yeah,
can
and
see.
then that's typical too because actually a lot of online brokerages don't even come on until 7 o'clock. So you usually don't see it on some of the other exchanges. Actually, most of them are 4 a.m. now, but so looks like maybe that's not the reason for the pop there either. We're just trying to find reasons why Merck is trading up a dollar on so-so earnings.
Hey Brent, were those ADP numbers bad there? Because I mean that's kind of coinciding here with the little bit of a sell-off we're getting in the market.
They were slightly worse than expected. I don't know if it was anything too concerning, but for January we had ADP 175,000. The street was looking for around 185,000, and then the reading for December was revised a little bit lower from an initial 238,000 to 227,000.
Okay, so not good here. I guess we really got to keep an eye on that 32 and a quarter number here to see if it's going to hold up.
I went too short on that trade with you. I should have bought the Wednesday expiration for that trade, and I bet that we had together the 1732 because I think we're going to see it today. Oh
Okay,
well. Oh
okay.
well.
What do
That's
you?
what
What?
I do. That's what that kills you on the weeklies, or I had the dailies on that one, and that killed me on that bet. Ralph Lauren also reported earnings here this morning. The stock was really popping here just a little while ago. The numbers grabbing him for him was 257 versus 251, 2.02 billion versus 2.02 billion. So, and they added 500 million to their stock buyback as well. And this stock was
Oh,
popping up. I'm just trying to look where to get up to, Joel.
yeah, 167.
167. Wow, they were trying to pull a whole Coors move there, Ralph Lauren. It's only at 160 now, so give them back $7.
Once again, stock selling off in the earnings here, getting the pop up. All those, I mean, this thing is cascaded down 24, from well over the 180 level here. This is a tough one to call here. Looking at the pre-market high, I don't think we're going to get to see that 167 again. Since coming down from the 167, you have found minor support here at 159. Takes out 159. I mean, we could easily slip into yesterday's range. Wouldn't be out of the question to get back down to yesterday's high, 158.13.
And look at the Michael Kors earnings from yesterday. You were talking, I think that after hours or that pre-market high did hold up. Didn't you say like 93.75? You thought the high was in? Joel, look, you were on fire yesterday because that high did hold
Oh,
up and
look
the
at
stock
that.
just
Oh,
kept drifting down throughout the day. Took out 90, closed below 90 at 89.91. It's down another dollar and a half here this morning. This thing's big 15-point gain is slowly starting to fade.
man, if I could ever get long stocks, I can certainly tell when to sell them. The problem is I don't get long them and I just sell them, and the market goes up. But yeah, I mean, you get just think if you're a big holder in that stock, you're an institution, and they're giving you that kind of cake, right in front of you, right off the open, right off earnings. I mean, and if you do your statistical analysis of how often that stock will move that much, it doesn't. I wish my mind was a computer to be able to figure all these things out because it just, for a stock to be up that much, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And now you got a huge gap to fill in this thing. I don't know. I mean, if you didn't take the opportunity to sell yesterday, I mean, you could still look at this 89.22 low. We took that out here. I mean, Dennis, come on. I mean, where's their support in this thing?
Well, there's nothing really. You can look maybe 84.40, which was the high back on December the 20th, and then we had the huge gap up. So there's no levels here. It's just a matter. Sometimes you get the gap and go. This isn't appearing to be that, though. And now that we've given back another $1.50 here this morning, I mean, the S&P futures are partially responsible for that. But you never want to see a stock gap up 15 points and then start fading. You always want to see it, if it's gapping up, you want to see it try to hold up. It's always a little bit, in the first few minutes, sometimes you get some profit taking, but that started drifting down all day. So whoever was taking profits was taking them early. And I think people are sitting on these big gains here still from yesterday. They might be getting a little bit nervous here as it pulls back another $1.50 this morning. So I'll wait to see this play out.
Do you know where the stock IPO'd at?
No.
$25.
When was that?
November of 2011, or excuse me, December of 2011.
What a perfect time to IPO too, right before two huge bull years where the bulls took over in the overall market, and this thing has propelled itself from 25 to $93. Did anybody shop there, Michael Kors? Anybody in the Benzinga office shop there?
Man, I know you don't, because that stuff is
No, that's
really...
way too expensive for me, man.
Do they have those over in Canada?
They have some of the they sell the products in different stores too. So I don't know if they have. Yeah,
That's
I
right.
would assume in Toronto, probably not Windsor. Windsor's blue collar. It's probably not gonna. Michael Kors store in Windsor. That's not gonna happen.
You got women wearing Converse over there in Windsor.
Hey, don't make fun of Windsor.
Okay.
Estee Lauder popping a little bit here this morning. Here's another interesting one. The earnings were $1.09 versus $1.07, 3.02 billion versus 3.06 billion. So a beat on the bottom, a little miss on the top. The guidance a little bit light, 52 to 55 versus 64 cents. Not loving that, but I mean the market finds a reason to buy this stock here this morning, and it is trading up $1.30 right now at $70.50.
Yeah, traded a little bit higher than that. Traded up to 70.57. Area of resistance here, I would have said before this came out, would have been 70.42 and 70.47. Those were the highs that you had in the issue back in just a couple trading sessions ago. 70.50 level. You are trading there right now, so we'll keep an eye on that as a potential resistance point. If it doesn't hold 70.50 here, you got a lot of air in here to get back down to, well, not a lot of air, to get down to yesterday's range at 69.77.
Also got reporting this morning, Cognizant, CTSH, and this stock is getting murdered here. And here's earnings that actually weren't that bad. $1.15 versus $1.06. 2.36 billion versus 2.36 billion. So in line on the sales, but they beat on the bottom, and they announced a stock split this morning. I guess they were like, oh, we saw what happened when Google announced their split, the stock was popping. We'll announce a split here, and maybe this will work out nicely for our shares. Not so fast. The stock is down $4.61 here right now, trading at 92.40.
Do you remember this stock? We were doing the show. I can't remember how far back it was, but it might have been, maybe I have to look at the monthly, but it went down. Maybe it was during this period back in July, maybe 2012. That might be. Yeah, we were doing it, got started back then. And it just went down like 16, 17 days in a row. And I can't remember who was following it with us, but they were trying to pick a bottom in it, and that run definitely came to an end, found support. Now you have the big rally, and they don't like the stock split, huh, Dennis?
No, they don't like some news anyways. Down $4.61. It's a pretty decent sell-off. What's the after hours or what's the pre-market range look like here, Joel?
Oh, it got over $100.
They bought it on the initial report, so they bought it up to what exact level?
100.56.
You know what they did?
And what's been the low?
And then the low's been 92, 91.99.
They did have
right.
they did have a little bit of guidance. The Q1 guidance looked fine. The fiscal year 14 looks to be potentially why the stock's down. He said expecting fiscal year 14 adjusted EPS to be at least 502, and the street's up around 508. So that could be one of the reasons why it's kind of selling off today.
It is hard to figure out. If you were an insider and you had reports, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you had inside information. It's not on a takeout, just on an earnings report. You have early access to an earnings report. It'd be damn hard to profit on that information right now because funny things happen here. Stocks miss and they rally. Stocks beat like crazy and they fall. It's really hard to figure out the fundamentals here right now. I think sometimes these things just trade wherever they want to trade or wherever the big hedge fund managers are pushing them around.
There's good support. I mean, we're trading below, we're right at 92.40 here. We were at 91.99. But if you go back in this issue here to, what do you need to go back to? Late November, you lot of lows in the 92 and a half, $93 area. That's where we hit in the pre-market. We actually got down to 91.99. I'd like to see if it can hold this 92. I think if it holds 92, you might get a little bit of a rally back up. You need to get to 94.79 to fill the gap. You did have a nice double bottom for Monday and Tuesday in 94.67 and 79. So get back up to that area. I expect some resistance. 92 goes by the wayside. Perhaps a nice round number like 90 may come into play. And you do have a daily low at 90.01 on November 11th.
Gilead, Gild, reported earnings last night. They were solid, 55 cents versus 50 cents,
Wow.
3.12 billion versus 2.85 billion. Beat on the top, beat on the bottom. Looking pretty good after hours. Not looking good in the pre-market. It's down 52 cents, giving back the gains. Where did this one get up to last night?
Last night you had a big bar, big range from 80.50 all the way up to 83.75. And since you came down to that 83.75 area, found support again just above the 80.50 level. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. But someone has an opinion here right around 82, Dennis. Last four lows between 81.75 and 82.20. So someone's looking to sell some stock here at 82, so keep an eye on that. Gets above 82. All-time high for this issue. This is Joe's favorite stock here. All-time high is 84.40, but SPOO's down 7. This giving a lot back. I don't think we'll see that 84.40 today.
We got 3M popping last night at 620. They announced a $12 billion stock buyback that popped the stock up. I think it got up over 130 actually on that buyback news. It's not trading up nearly as much here now. Maybe the S&P futures putting a little bit of pressure on the stock. It's only up 60 cents here now at 127.35. But interesting. That's a big buyback.
Yeah, they're doing it at the market, right? On
Well,
today.
apparently not because they're not up very much.
130.20 was the pop here. And now it's kind of interesting. Coming back down and just holding 127.35 here, last few lows. Is it bid there or offered there,
Bid
Dennis?
there. It's bid there 127.36, offered up at 128.28, 100 shares. It's a one-up market, Joel.
100
What's a
up.
one-up?
100 up.
What's a one-up market mean? That's just the liquidity nowadays. That used
Yeah.
to be news.
Oh,
News
my.
was coming out when you seen 100 shares on the bid and 100 shares on the offer because the specialist on the floor back in the day would throw one up, meaning that nobody can trade right now. We're waiting for the news to digest here. Now you see 100 shares by 100 shares. That's just the regular market.
That's a liquid market,
That's a liquid market.
because it's not odd lots going by. Had a high 127.64 yesterday. Hadn't cleared that level yet, so needs to get there to get some ground back. Coming back on the downside, not quite a double bottom. 123.61, 124.12. So that'd be your area of support if the S&Ps drag this thing back down.
We're going to have Sozzi on the show here in about 10 minutes, but let's quickly talk about J.C. Penney yesterday
Oh,
because they were taking this stock and breaking it down to new 50-year lows. I think it was like a 50-year low yesterday for this stock. Broke under $5 here. Everybody kind of jumping off the bandwagon on J.C. Penney. You've got, and then looking the news yesterday morning, we saw it yesterday. We talked about it yesterday on the show. It was lifting up and got up over $6 on those initial news, and then they started drifting down. The comps seemed to be okay, but they started selling the good news. And by the time we had even, got the show done, it had pretty much given back the entire gain. And then it started trading lower all day, lower, lower, lower. Eventually takes out $5. Wow, JCPenney just cannot do anything right. Even when the comps look good, they still whack the stock.
yeah, that was interesting. They come out with this is the second time in a row that they've come out with some good news on their financial updates. And the first time I remember it got like to 10.80 in the
Yeah.
pre-market, didn't even open up over $10, and then just cascaded. Here, same old trick. You got to pop in the pre-market. Couldn't get back over $6. Actually, Brent and I were looking at the. I was like on my platforms that I have. I did have data going back to the 90s. So I was looking on Google Finance, and I was looking. I think I saw a low was like May of 1980. That it traded around $5 here. I guess the only level to keep an eye on is yesterday's low, which was 490 here. So you're looking for that to hold. Hasn't taken it out yet in the pre-market session. Below, we'll have to ask Sozzi here what he thinks about 490. I have a feeling it's going to be zero.
They even started whacking some of the preferred stocks yesterday. When they started whacking JCPenney, I actually did get short some of these preferred stocks because they were lagging. A couple of the preferreds were trading higher, and I was like, that's stupid. So I started whacking a few of them. PFH is one. HJV is another one. There's actually five of them out there, so I'll give you the symbols on them. These things are very illiquid, though, and I mean, they're usually 50-cent spreads. So PFH, HJV, JBN, JBR, and KTP. Those are the five preferreds for JCPenney. Look at the KTP one there, Joel. That one was really whacked yesterday. It was actually trading up over $16. They whacked it down to 14.29. But again, if you're trading these things, you got to be aware that the spreads are very wide here, and it's difficult to get filled on these things.
Yeah, I don't think I get the preferreds on this. But Jared has a sad story here. A buddy of his had his entire a guy he works with, not a buddy, has had his entire account invested in J.C. Penney, which was over 32 grand yesterday morning. Got a pop up, was up a grand, and then he ended up selling for a small loss. So good for him, Jared. I mean, if he did his whole account, I mean, that's
Holy
not a good
cow.
yeah, that's not a good idea to do that. But hey, he got out of it, so that's that's a good thing. But maybe have him listen to pre-market prep on optionshouse.benzinga.com, and maybe Mr. Sozzi could give him some trading advice. But putting all your money in one trade, and especially in J.C. Penney here, boy.
Yeah, that's a scary one to go all in on. And I think even, from an investing standpoint, they always say diversification, diversification. You want to never have more than never have more than like 10% of your money in any one holding. I try to use that rule in trading too. Because something funny can happen. Stock could get halted during the day. Like weird things can happen. So I never put all my eggs in one basket. I've always kind of used the rule of thumb that you never want more than 5 to 10% of your money in one trade even, or one holding. I mean, probably it's sometimes maybe you get away from that, but diversifying is key because bad things happen. And when you're picking a company that looks like it's on the death march and you're trying to pick a bottom in it, it's a hard thing to do. People have been trying to pick bottoms here in JC Penney for the last 3 years, and the stock just continues to go lower here. There's only $5 left, Joel. It's pretty much like you say, an option now here, a long-term option. And I don't know if the company is going to survive or not. When they're whacking it on good comps, it's telling me that something funny happened. We'll have to ask Sozzi a little bit more about that when he gets on, what his thoughts are on that.
Getting a thing here from SF Bright TG here that Wags reports same store sales increased 2.9 versus 2.2, and the real metrics consensus also says they've been studying tobacco sales for a while.
You're talking about which stock? I missed the stock, Joel.
Walgreens.
Oh, Walgreens. Yeah, they did break their comps there this morning. Yeah, 3.7 versus 2.9, I think it was. Yeah, so they did break this morning. At 8 o'clock this morning. The stock is bid up here. It actually traded up at 57.38, so going the opposite direction of CVS here. Just 100 shares up there. It's back down at 56.10 right now. An odd lot just traded. Very wide spread here. Is bid up this morning, so it looks like they are going to try to buy this higher. It's bid for 1,200 shares at $56. Best offers up at 57.50. So it's going in the opposite direction. Those pair traders on the CVS WAG are probably not that impressed with this, unless you've got it on that way. If you're long the WAG and short the CVS, then you're very impressed.
Uh, we are busting out above yesterday's high, which is right at the $56 level. The stock had been coming down with the market. We'll keep an eye if it really goes into rally mode here. Three highs between 57.45 and 57.74. Coming back on the downside, you almost got a perfect double bottom there, 55.31 and 55.35.
Let's talk about some of the big movers there yesterday. Google has been flying around here, flying up, flying down, going everywhere on this thing. It's moving around $20 a day right now. They did announce a deal with the EU in their antitrust case. So that is giving the stock a little bit of a lift here this morning. We're down 6 on the S&P futures, down 9 with fair value. Google is trading up $5 here this morning, trading at 11.43. So Google's trying to be a source of strength. Yesterday, we made a low 11.37 on the big earnings, or after the big sell-off there 2 days ago. We made a low of 11.32. That's the level I think we need to hold for the bulls to keep charge in this one if you are bullish this stock.
I talked about a little bit different level here, and I was looking at where Google closed the day, when the earnings were released, and that was 35.39. And you got that all-time closing high at 180.97, and that faded very, very quickly. But really, I'm keeping an eye. 11:35 is my number here because you had 11:35 was the close on the day that when they announced earnings. The day after they it closed at 33.43 and then a 38.16 low. So if you take that whole area, calling that whole area 11:35. As long as it holds 11:35 on a closing basis here, I think there's still life in this thing to go back up to the 11:80. If 11:35 does not hold here, perhaps get down to the $1,100 level. But it's hard because it could take out 11:35 intraday, go down and trade 11:22 and then come back up and close at 11:40. But what's going to be the driver? You had a lot of a lot of analysts already upgrading the stock and the target prices, right? And
Hmm.
you've already have announced earnings, uh,
Which actually weren't that great.
which weren't that great. So what's the next driver for Google?
Just got to get the momentum going again. That's what all these stocks live on is momentum. The stock has been one of the biggest Momo stocks here in the last couple of years, and that's what it needs to get going again. And I don't know. I don't know what if there's going to be like a catalyst, obviously, because we just had the split announced. We've had all these things announced, the earnings and everything. So yeah, I don't see what the catalyst here is. But I think this is going to move pretty much with the market, and we're seeing that. Had the big sell-off when the market sold off, had the nice rally yesterday when the market's rallying. It's kind of trying to buck the trend here a little bit this morning with this EU deal, but it's pretty much the market. If the market can start to come back and make new highs, I'd imagine Google's going to start making new highs. But we're 100 points off the highs now here on the S&P futures. So, and you're looking at this stock, and it's not 100 points, it's not 1100 or 110 points off. So relative strength has still been okay here with Google compared to some of these other stocks that are sitting on, multi-month lows anyways.
Okay, all right. Any other stocks to cover here? I mean,
Well,
this
we might as well talk about Twitter
I knew
because
you were
they
gonna. Oh,
are
gee.
going to report here this or tonight. And obviously, the stock has been pretty much shrugged off every market sell-off here in the last few days. Had the big sell-off 2 days ago, Twitter did not go down. Actually, yesterday had the big rally. Twitter did not rally. It's just kind of hanging out, waiting for numbers. As people jockeying for position here now. We already talked about that they're pricing in an $11 to $12 move here on the options. So it's going to be a big move for Twitter probably in either direction as we get their first earnings report since they've been public.
Got a good level for our traders that are interested in messing with this stock today. Had a couple highs on the daily chart within 4 cents of each other. You had actually within a dime. You had a high at 66.37. You had a high at 66.48. You did get a little bit higher in the pre-market, but that's my level. If it can hold gets above, takes out that 67.50, and air in here, perhaps maybe rally up. I don't know, not quite to the $70 level. If it can hold this 66.50 area, currently trading right at that area, I think we could maybe see a little. Why would you not take profits ahead of earnings in this thing?
I don't know. If I had profits in it, I would take it. But some people are speculating. They saw what happened with Facebook earnings and the thing gapped and went from 26. They're speculating that maybe the street's leaning too much, that they think they're not going to make that money. Imagine they come out and they make some solid cash. Then everybody be like, whoa, because right now we all talk about valuation. We talk about valuation. It doesn't make any sense. Well, really, we haven't had a public report yet of earnings here. So I'm interested. I'm very interested in this report. I'm not making a play on it ahead of time, though. I'm going to wait to see what happens and wait to see what these numbers look like. But it's going to be some movement here, folks, when this thing takes off because it has quietly, shrugged off all the market movements in the last few days, which the market's been volatile. So it's winding up. to
Okay,
obviously go one way or another.
we got to get Mr. Sozzi on here, but J Dot's been real patient here on MYGN here. They must have discovered
They
some.
reported last night, actually.
They re-
Reported earnings 66 cents versus 46 cents, 204 million versus 140 or 176 million. So they beat on the top, beat on the bottom, raised guidance. They're doing a little bit of everything right here. So stock is popping here nicely this morning. It's up 11%, up $3 here. Joel, a quick technical, and we'll get to Sozzi.
Got a pop initially, big spike over $32. Got to 32.87. I would use that target on the upside, but more importantly, the number I'm looking at the downside. The gap up was 29.50. Sell off took it back down to 29.58. So that's your support. Needs to hold. We're gonna take a quick break and get Mr. Sozzi on the line. Welcome back, traders and investors. We have a very special guest on today, Chief Equity Strategist at Belus Capital Advisors, Brian Sozzi. Brian, how you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you guys?
We're okay. We're battling the snow as well, but let's get right to these retail stocks. There's a lot of good news, not good news, a lot of news on the Walgreens and the CVS. But first, let's go to your number one stock, I guess. Number one stock to short, J.C. Penney.
It is a story that's even starting to surprise me. Every new piece of news that the company comes out, and in their minds, I guarantee you that Mike Ullman thinks a 2% comp is positive, and that the prior month's disclosures are positive. But yesterday, stock opened up. I think in pre-market was 4%. Then it gave back its gains. We published our note at 10:30, and the stock, reiterating our stock recommendation. We have no price target on the dog, and the fact is, you are still worried about if the company is going to have to raise money in 2014 from an outside source. If you drill down to what they reported yesterday, yes, they reported a positive 2% comp, but we didn't get the sense that the company's margins have bottomed. And when they reiterated their total liquidity guidance, $2 billion, even if you drill down to that, it would appear that they generate significantly less operating cash versus the prior year. And why is that a big concern? Because the holiday quarter is their most important quarter. And so the rest of the period, and off-peak periods, you're looking at a JCPenney burning cash through cash pretty significantly. That's why the stock sold off. That's why I don't want my clients anywhere exposed to this company whatsoever.
Do you think, what's your timeline here? Like, they're burning cash. How long can they keep burning cash here and survive? Like, how long? Do you have like a time frame here? Do you think this company's going under, Brian?
How can I put it? They need to start putting up mid to high single digit positive same store sales by the second quarter, because if they do that, it will give you a sense that they can potentially return to profit, believe it or not, by the holiday quarter of 2014. My opinion is, and why we still have a sell recommendation with no price target, is we just don't have confidence the company can profitably run its business. And we see it at the store level where we're doing our undercover field work. I mean, everybody sees me take pictures and blow up my Twitter feed, but these things are done for a point. They are 50, 60, 70% off still post the holiday season. And now we've gotten reports that they've tried to raise prices as the middle-income consumer is telling you that they cannot handle those price increases. So what are you looking at in the first quarter? More unplanned markdowns, more burning through cash, and more pressured profit margins. So they are starting to resemble a story of what we saw in many respects at like a Circuit City or a Borders Group. And if that's not to inject a lot of hype and theater into the story, this is what's really happening, because the story that's really happening across all of JCPenney stores.
You know, it's interesting too that this is the second occasion where they came up with supposed good news and they got a pop, and then it sold off.
Yes, that is absolutely. In their mind, they think this they are reporting positive news, and I can tell you from sources inside the company, they're starting to get very frustrated by the market's response to news that they view is a company moving in the right direction. And obviously, the market is just not agreeing with them. And think about it this way: when they came out and announced 33 store closures a couple weeks ago, the stock sold off. Usually, when a retailer, a Macy's, for example, they got credit for announcing store closures. But I think the market read is that the situation, while improving month to month, it's still by no means.
You know what other indicator I like to look at too, Sozzy, when I'm trading some of these things that look like they appear to go on a death march, is sometimes I go and look at the preferred stocks and start to see what happens there. And JCPenney does have 5 preferred shares, this PFH, HJV, JBN, JBR, and they were whacking these things yesterday too. Like I'm looking at some of the preferred shares on it, and they were whacked basically down 10% yesterday, approaching new lows here too. They're yielding 13, 12, 13% now. Obviously, anything that yields 12 or 13% in this environment is probably the market's saying, well, maybe they're not going to continue to pay those dividends forever here. What are your thoughts when they start whacking the preferred stocks too? Is that like just reiterate your position?
That is a great read right there. You have to be looking at preferreds, and even playing off that for a second. What I do with Sears is look at the yields on their debt, which have spiked since last summer. Going back to JCPenney, the preferreds come first, obviously, in the hierarchy if the company goes out of business compared to the common shareholders. So to see the preferreds selling off as aggressively as the common stock is a negative sign. It's just a sign that the market is concerned about getting paid should the company ultimately go under.
And what about, you think anybody's going to want to take them out here at this level?
It's tough, and we haven't seen any interest in them, and anybody having interest in JCPenney at $5, $6, $7, or even $10. And now and also keep in mind too, they just made a change in their poison pill. So this company has come out and said, hey, we believe in our turnaround strategy. We, the management company, JCPenney, we believe that we have the right elixir to turn the company around. So we've made it more restrictive to relieve long-suffering JCPenney shareholders by any proposed bid. So it's hard to see someone come in there. But if it does come to the point where JCPenney is in desperate measures and the stock's now at $3 or $4 and they're continuing to burn through cash by the middle of the year, they could seek to reach out to somebody, or somebody could reach out to them, and maybe that poison pill is ultimately relieved.
And what about this Sears chart? Because I'm looking at this. Last time you were on the show, we'll give you some props because you weren't saying that many good things about Sears either. I think it was 2 days after you were on the show, the stock pre-announced and gapped down 10 points here. Now it bounced a bit there for about 2 weeks, but now just yesterday taking out and making new lows on the move again. As a technical trader, I never like to be long stocks that are making new lows, but what are your thoughts on the fundamentals of Sears?
Well, here we go. Unbeknownst to anybody, the past 5 days, the stock Sears is down 10.5%. And what I have been seeing in our fieldwork and our sources, Sears is now using their stores as fast cash ATM machines. And we're seeing more liquidation of Kmart and Sears across the country. And what is the quickest way for a company to raise cash if you're a retailer? It's to put 80% liquidation signs everywhere in the store, raise cash for those liquidation sales, sell off the fixtures, and hopefully you add money to your balance sheet. I think Sears Holding Company is in a liquidation mode. I do not believe that they will be in business by 2020. I mean, I've been saying this consistently. I ultimately feel as though they could start running into problems financially by 2017. We're more long-term oriented in our call, so I guess my call remains is they will not remain in business. I just don't see a place for Sears or Kmart in a world where Walmart has a good balance sheet and they're able to open small stores, or Target's now starting to open small stores, or even digital. The fact is Sears trumpets the amazing things they've done online and within mobile payments, but if your stores are completely irrelevant to the consumer, you're probably not thinking about shopping there online either.
What about Eddie Lampert? I mean, is he ever going to give up the reins of this thing? I mean, it's been just a financial disaster. I mean, is there any talk of him? I mean, would that be a boost to the stock if he stepped aside?
Well, he's a majority shareholder
Yeah.
in Sears Holding, and he's a man that we don't hear from much from. He's now living behind a new blog which is not regularly updated. And hey, I'm all for making a guest contribution to the Sears Holding Company blog to tell the truth, because my email gets bombed by consumers, former employees about the disturbing nature of what's really going inside this company. And I feel as though he has always viewed the company as maybe something that can be wound down over a course of many years to raise cash for whatever personal reasons why. I just feel as though he does not understand retailing. I don't get the sense that he's actively walking the stores, because if he was like a Sam Walton or even a Mike Duke at Walmart, he would understand what his years and years of underinvestment in Sears and Kmart have led to produce. He has caused the slow liquidation of the national retail chain. I mean, that's what's basically unfolding in front of our eyes.
What about Radio Shack, Sozzi? Do you got an opinion on this one? Because they had a pretty decent Super Bowl commercial. I actually laughed out loud. They were trying to obviously change their image. They're saying they're changing the stores, and they're obviously going to try to update the stores here and getting rid of the 80s look to it all. But it's Radio Shack. I mean, even the name of the company, Radio Shack, it sounds just 80s in itself. What are your thoughts here on this one?
Well, oddly enough, as soon as that ad hit, I was tweeting out my thoughts. I thought they won the Super Bowl ads. It was a phenomenal ad, and then all of a sudden I started getting emails from clients. This is stock that we buy on Monday. Ultimately, what I told them is this is not something I can personally get behind, because, ironically, the day after, who would have thought that a Super Bowl ad would have amounted to 500 store closures the next day? But there's a reason why they're closing 500 stores, because they are producing some of the worst sales and margin results in the entire mall scene, even compared to JCPenney. So you're getting the sense that their holiday quarter was very, very bad. And I believe the last time I looked over the company, they're still trying to secure additional ways to raise money, which I view and would be very penalizing. And even playing off the Super Bowl ad, they raised the expectation. They just raised the possibility of a consumer getting disappointed, because when you go to most of these Radio Shack stores, they don't look anything like the ones we see, for example, by me in New York's Penn Station, that have shop and shops. Radio Shack still resembles the Radio Shack that was in the ad that they were tearing down, and they just don't have the finances to do this massive remodeling program.
Okay, they're not your traditional retailers, but CVS came out with some pretty shocking news regarding tobacco sales. You have any kind of take on that?
They along with Chipotle are leading in two big social issues. I guess as of today, Chipotle, by the end of the year, they will have removed all GMO from their food. CVS is getting rid of cigarettes. And now that you sit back and think about it, it makes sense to take the short-term pain in terms of $2 billion loss in annual sales, because they are trying to invest in health clinics. I mean, it seems to align more of what they're ultimately trying to do. Now, who is this a big win for? It is a big win for dollar stores, because specifically, let's say a Family Dollar. Yes, it's a low-margin category, but Family Dollar and even Dollar Tree, they have focused more on getting more cigarettes in the store. It drives traffic. Low-margin category, and it won't necessarily move the earnings needle for dollar stores because it's low margin, but it's good to know, at least if you're holding that stock, you might get a less slight bump in your same-store sales because of what CVS has ultimately decided.
Do you see Walgreens doing a similar move here? Because actually, the Chicago Tribune was reporting that they've been evaluating tobacco for some time. They reported that this morning. Do you think Walgreens is going to follow suit here? Maybe Rite Aid too?
I think both of the companies are now monitoring the social reaction, Twitter, Facebook, news feeds, wherever, on what CVS has done today. Even for me, just looking out and seeing as soon as the news hit, it seems to be pretty positive so far. So in retail land, when one company tends to do something, let's say lower prices, many retailers often follow suit. But I wouldn't be surprised if Walgreens and Rite Aid, even Duane Reade, come out and they remove cigarettes from their store. What I would be wondering as a stockholder, what do these companies put in their place? They have to figure something out to keep the traffic driving into the store, because whether we like it or not, there are still smokers out there in the USA, and they come into the stores quite frequently, and they spend not only on cigarettes, that extra soda from Pepsi and Coca-Cola, or that candy bar. So it's they have to find something to replace it with.
Last time we were on the show, we discussed Walmart here, and this stock has had a pretty big down move. Have you
Yep.
changed your stance on Walmart at all?
Still accelerating. I believe the last time we talked, I was looking for an earnings warning from them in the mid
Yeah.
2014, in middle of February. Came earlier than I thought, but I think when they ultimately report earnings, you'll get a very disappointing outlook for 2014. I ultimately feel that Walmart needs to restructure its business. They need to close a good bit of U.S. stores to drive their business more efficiently. I'm worried about their margins, and even if you're trying to be optimistic on Walmart, saying the sell-off is overdone, look what Amazon delivered. Okay, their quarter by no means was strong on margins. They disappointed, and I feel it was a bigger trend throughout retail. All of these companies are trying to offer the lowest possible price in a real-time environment, and that's just a recipe for bottom line disaster.
And even Target, I remember, I'll give you some props there too, Saz. You've been all over a lot of these calls, and you were concerned about Target as well. And I think the stock was up around $62 when you were giving us that. It's at $55 here now. Do you think Target is starting to show some value here? Like, do you like it at 55, or are you still not a fan of Target?
No, we have, not to be completely every day. We also have a sub-rating on Target right now, and it's with them I'm concerned not only with the U.S. business, but by what my sources are feeding me from Canada in terms of visual and on-the-ground points of interest. Let's just say they are completely failing in Canada. Their entry has been a complete failure. I feel as though they're still having massive logistics problems where they cannot get items on the shelves quick enough. They have to retrain their employees. And then also now we get news that Walmart Canada is investing more aggressively in their business, really trying, I think, to kick Target while it's down on the floor. I'm very concerned about that. I'm very concerned about Target's outlook for initial 2014, given the margin pressures in the U.S. business, but also what's happening in Canada, which nobody's even talking about.
Okay, well, we're talking about a lot of stuff that you don't like. So what do you like?
You beat me to the punch because I was going to leave it that way. One key thing I encourage everybody to listen to is when what I feel are disappointing outlooks from the majority of retailers. Yes, you will have your Chipotle, which I consider retail. They will do well. Ralph Lauren came out today. I like the fact that they had good core, strong margins in their business. That was good. There will be one-off. Even Michael Kors yesterday. There will be one-offs. But when I think most of these companies come out with their disappointing 2014 outlooks, watch the stock reaction. If you start to get some positive reactions on these disappointing below consensus numbers, then you might want to become a little more constructive into the spring buying season or even back to school. You want to start thinking about back to school. But right now, all bets are off in retail. You want to play these companies to the downside. There's just no visible upside catalysts, at least that I see at this point. I mean, household consumption is continuing to disappoint. Consumers are not only not putting money on their credit card aggressively to spend, they're also changing how they spend. And a big fundamental shift that Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz brought to light a couple of weeks ago. More buying of tech devices, those are less trips to the mall, less margin opportunities for retailers. And we just don't know to the extent of how much further margins have to fall for this sector.
And you did a good job with the Starbucks, too. I know Dennis got his shirt off at like 76, and he was going to hold it forever, and he covered it at like 75. And
Yeah, because I'm a scalper.
yeah, that Scott got down under
I was
there.
like, that
but
Sozzi guy's been all over everything. I'm just
yeah.
shorting Starbucks just because Sozzi doesn't like it.
Well, the Starbucks it's a tough call. I mean, it was our 2013 top pick. Everything seemed to go right. They drive a lot of intrigue on social media. They have all these new products, but that call, which came on January 13th, to downgrade a hold, and we still have a hold rating on it. Price target 73. Was just things that we were seeing in the store that nobody even talks about because I feel so many analysts don't even get out in the field for what's going on. Watching the stores, you're seeing longer lines. You're seeing I've actually videotaped people leaving the store because the lines are too big. I feel the menu has just enlarged to a point where they need to improve the processes behind the counter. We talked to the company late last week. I still didn't get the sense that they get the understanding of the problem with what the industry calls throughput. So given the fact that they don't get it, I need to see how that plays out in the current quarter results, and also how much they're having to discount to get the customer back in the store. Because keep in mind, the traffic at Starbucks US slowed in the middle of December, and they opted to increase their promotions, and that's not something you normally hear from Starbucks promoting. I mean, they're not going to lower prices like Walmart, but you're just not used to Starbucks promoting anything.
What I really liked about your call on that too was that I think you had like a $79 price target on it, and then you lowered it to 76, and it was actually trading at 76. And like
Mhm.
a lot of times these analysts come out, it drops from 79 to 72. Well, I'm lowering my target to 72, 76, and it's at 72. So does it mean it
Yeah,
already hit the top? And
yeah.
you should get out now. And I just really respect that. If people are paying attention to your calls, that they're actionable. They're just not downgrading it after the fact. You're saying, hey, I think you should get out here. And it turned out, right, wrong, or indifference, it was a good call.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I mean, I'm not one to play around with this stuff, and that Starbucks call, it's very hard because we do have a relationship with the Starbucks management team, and you don't normally any company, they don't want to hear that their stock got downgraded. But that call only came with about almost 2.5 months of work, field work behind it, because you don't come out and downgrade a best-in-class operator with Starbucks with some junky type of call, evaluation call. You need specifics, and you need almost borderline investigative research to even make a call like that. So, I mean, I am all for getting ready to upgrade Starbucks again. I just need to let's say mall traffic improve a little bit, or we see in the stores that they are improving their processes, or I get a little more color on some of the new items they have coming out. We're ready to go back to a buy rating. I just need to see more evidence that they're starting to move beyond some of the things that we have concerns about.
Yeah, being open-minded. And just the whole thing, this Men's Warehouse, Joseph A. Bank, I mean, this whole thing, one's taking over the other mergers and everything. Then everything is off here. Now the stock has come down from the $52 level. Can you make any sense of Men's Warehouse?
I can't make. I'll take the other two. I can't make any sense of Joseph A. Bank, and I remain very much of the opinion that Joseph A. Bank is just they don't have their best interests of shareholders, the best interest of shareholders in mind. They are not a growth company. They are a very price competitive business. I'm not going to look up 10 years from now and see 2,000 extra Joseph A. Bank stores dotted across the U.S. and an extra 500 stores internationally. It's just not going to happen. So for them, you have a Men's Warehouse offering, I think, a very fair, very, very fair price. Let Men's Warehouse see the books, give your shareholders certainty of value, and get this merger, which makes so much sense, done. And just so you can relieve yourself of this, and you could enter the holiday season of 2014 with the team having hopefully been combined and a strategic plan for the next 3-5 years well mapped out.
Okay.
But ultimately, wrap it up, Joseph A. Bank trying to acquire Eddie Bauer is a joke. Eddie Bauer has been one of the most relevant brands for the past 10 years.
Okay, just to finish things up here, I mean, the market's had a slide from its all-time highs. Really been led a lot by these retail stocks going down. I mean, does this sour your outlook, on the market at all here? Could we've seen the all-time top here, and the retailers are just giving us a little bit of a clue of things to come, or are you still like Dennis, super bullish on the market? Think we're going back?
Well, hugs to you guys. All right, well, basically, ironically, and I should shoot over the note, the first week in January, we actually told clients, and I'm not making this up, to get more into cash. And if you look at my coverage universe and report to repost as part of consensus, you can see that it's basically 75% underperform ratings, 25% outperform. And why that is, one key reason, if you look inside these earnings reports of the company, I don't know what people are a lot of these strategists are smoking in their pipes. But when I look at the earnings reports of many companies, even the companies doing it well, the operating margin growth, geeky but important, has not really accelerated versus the third quarter. Number two, it's also not broad-based by business segments. I can't tell you the countless number of companies that we analyze that one segment out of 5 segments drove the entire company's results. That is not a healthy business. It goes against let's say the capex boom that everybody thought coming into the year was going to drive stock prices, or the household consumption boom that is a key underpinning of most strategists S&P 500 2014 outlooks even coming to fruition. So I feel, though, you still need to be cautious, and I think the next point of reference, maybe get back into the market, would be the upcoming Yellen testimony. It feels though the market is worried about her offering just slipping up in her vocabulary, and vocabulary is very important to FOMC policy right now. So let this shake out. I'm not seeing anything in the chart that say you should go back and buy all these companies that have broken down. Let the market come to you, basically.
Okay, all right. We've had Brian Sozzi on, Chief Equity Strategist for Belus Capital Advisors, giving us a great outlook and insight into retail stocks. Brian, thanks a lot for coming on, and certainly like to have you back on again soon.
Thanks for having me, guys, and be safe in the snow.
Okay,
Thanks,
all
Brian.
right. Before we move on to Mighty Joe Young here with the headlines, we are getting some terrible news out of the 3D printing sector here. 3D Systems lowers guidance here. Brent, could you
Holy
hop in on that?
cow.
Sure, Ken. It was bad. Let's just say. So
The
actually,
others all lowered guidance. Didn't we know this was coming? Remember the other ones all lowered
Eh.
guidance? Wow.
so SSYS, just real quick, SSYS trading down about 8% last check. Also XONE, that's X1, that was also trading down about 8%. And let me see here. So the one of the numbers was kind of fine. They narrowed their fiscal year sales guidance from a prior 500 to 530 million to a new range of 513 to 514 million. So that wasn't really bad. But then the EPS guidance for fiscal year 13 lowered from a prior range of 93 to 103 to 83 cents to 87 cents. Analysts all the way up at 97 cents, and then they also gave a preview to the fiscal year 14. They said EPS around 73 to 85 cents, and the street is up at 127. That was
Wow.
really the bad one there.
Holy Toledo. Wow, this thing is getting shellacked here, down 20%. Just hit a low of 58.10, trying to get a little bit of a bounce here. But you know what? When you look at charts like this and you see the kind of parabolic runs that they've had and just going straight up here, and then they start to give it back, it's just hard to find a support level in this thing. I mean, you're blowing through the 70s and the 60s here. I guess with this thing, if you're short, kudos to you. See what happens at this 58.10 low. That's been the pre-market low. As we speak, you did have a couple lows. Let's see, going back in 2013, two daily lows in a row at 59 and a quarter, 59.35. We got a buck below that here, so you got to think some shorts are a little bit happy about this. Might be willing to take things in between 58 and 59. Okay, wow, what a great interview with Brian Sozzi. Breaking news here on 3D Systems. Now we're going to shift gears and go to Mighty Joe Young.
It's my turn, everybody.
Finally.
Good morning, world. How are you today? Today's editorial headlines from around the globe. As I'm sure most of you have heard already, CVS is to become the first major U.S. drugstore to drop cigarettes. On Wednesday, CVS Caremark Corporation announced that its 7,600 stores would stop selling all tobacco products by October 2014, making the company the first U.S. drugstore chain to remove cigarettes from its shelves. Public health experts called the decision by the number 2 U.S. drugstore chain a precedent-setting step that could pressure other stores to follow suit. CVS, whose Caremark unit is a major pharmacy benefits manager for corporations and the government Medicare program, believes the decision will strengthen its position as a healthcare provider. I think it will put pressure on other retailers who want to be in healthcare, said CVS Caremark Chief Medical Officer Dr. Troyan Brennan. Although some U.S. cities, including Boston and San Francisco, already ban the sale of tobacco products in pharmacies, advocates hope CVS' voluntary decision will have a ripple effect among other pharmacy chains. The NYPD probes linked between drug suspects and Philip Seymour Hoffman. Police investigating the apparent drug overdose death of actor Philip Seymour Hoffman executed search warrants at a Chinatown apartment building Tuesday evening, seizing heroin and marijuana and arresting 3 men and 1 woman. An NYPD spokesman said Wednesday police have not uncovered any direct links between the drugs recovered during the raid at 302 Mott Street and the death of Hoffman, who was found Sunday morning in the bathroom at his Greenwich Village apartment, a needle in his arm. The Academy Award-winning star had stockpiled more than 50 glassine envelopes of heroin bearing the labels Ace of Spades and Ace of Hearts, as well as prescription muscle relaxants and blood pressure pills, police said. Shaun White withdraws from slopestyle in Sochi. The snowboarder's quest for 2 golds and 1 Olympics ended Wednesday. Less than 24 hours before he was slated to compete, the American snowboarder announced on NBC's Today that he would not compete in the slopestyle as he had previously planned. The 2-time defending gold medalist in the halfpipe, White is seeking to become the first American man to win an event in 3 consecutive Winter Olympics. After much deliberation with my team, I have made the decision to focus solely on trying to bring home the 3rd straight gold medal in halfpipe for Team USA, White said in a statement shared exclusively with Today. The difficult decision to forego slopestyle is not one I take lightly, as I know how much effort everyone has put into holding the slopestyle event for the first time in Olympic history, a history I had planned on being a part of. Obamacare could lead to loss of nearly 2.3 million U.S. jobs, a report says. The long-term effect of Obamacare on the U.S. economy was rewritten on Tuesday, with the Congressional Budget Office issuing a revised projection that nearly 2.5 million workers could opt out of full-time jobs over the next 10 years, allowing employers to wipe 2.3 million full-time jobs off the books. Budget experts say that because Obamacare offers an insurance alternative to employer-provided coverage, many Americans who hold full-time jobs may decide to work part-time or not at all and get their coverage from the exchanges. Following the release of the report, House Speaker John Boehner said the report showed how the middle class is getting squeezed in this economy. The report drew immediate action from GOP lawmakers, including House Speaker John Boehner, who said the report indicates Obamacare is only making it harder for middle-class Americans to survive in the bad economy. Time Warner is buying back $5 billion in stock. The media conglomerate, owner of Turner Broadcasting, HBO, Warner Brothers, as well as CNN and CNN Money, hey there, Paul and Monica, how you doing? Also said the planned spin-off of its Time Inc. magazine publishing unit remains on track to close in the 2nd quarter, but it said it expects slightly slower earnings growth in 2014. The new share repurchase program follows $3.7 billion of share repurchases in 2013. Those repurchases allowed the company to report a slight increase in earnings per share in the 4th quarter despite a 4% drop in income. The company's net earnings per share rose 16% for the year, the 5th straight year it's reported double-digit percentage growth in that measure. It said it would top 10% growth again in 2014, although it expects growth in the low double digits this time. The 3 units of the company, Turner Broadcasting, HBO, and Warner Brothers, all reported increases in full-year operating income. And Samsung reining in the theatrics for the Galaxy S5. Don't expect a lot of singing and dancing when Samsung Electronics introduces the next generation of its flagship smartphone, the Galaxy S5, towards the end of this month. Samsung showed off its current flagship, the Galaxy S4, last March in a glitzy gala at Radio City Music Hall in New York, billing it as the next big thing. But the S4 has underperformed analysts' expectations, and Samsung's arch-rival Apple has regained ground at the premium end of the smartphone market in recent months. This time around, Samsung plans a relatively low-key event for the S5, according to a person in the smartphone industry with knowledge of the plans, in keeping with the setting, which will be more business than Broadway, a trade show called the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. Barcelona. Fernando would really get on me for that. Samsung sent invitations to the event to journalists and others this week, billing it as 2014 Episode 1 in its Unpacked series of product introductions. And Google Chairman Eric Schmidt to get $100 million stock award. Google Executive Chairman Eric Schmidt will be awarded $100 million in restricted stock units, the company said on Tuesday, marking the 2nd time in less than 3 years that the internet company's former chief executive officer has received an equity award of that size. Google said in a filing with the Securities and Exchange Commissions that Schmidt will also collect a $6 million annual discretionary cash bonus next week. Schmidt handed the CEO reins to Google co-founder Larry Page in 2011 after a decade leading the internet search company. After the job change, Google bumped Schmidt's salary up from $1 a year to well, I'm not sure if that was $1 or a million.
It probably was $1.
You think it
Actually,
was $1?
yeah, I'm pretty sure it probably was $1.
So let's see here. Just to make sure I read this right. After the job change, when Schmidt left the CEO position, Google bumped Schmidt's salary up from $1 a year to $1.25 million annually and awarded him a $100 million equity award comprised of stock and options, which vest over a 4-year period. Mobile data traffic is expected to explode 11-fold by 2018. Networking experts are running out of superlatives to describe the coming tidal wave explosion cataclysm of mobile data traffic. Cisco today said mobile data is expected to grow by 11 times in the next 4 years, reaching 18 exabytes per month by 2018. An exabyte is 1 billion gigabytes. Mobile data traffic is expected to grow by 61% annually into 2018, with the extra traffic from just 1 year. 2017 expected to be triple the entire mobile internet in 2013. There will be more mobile users, nearly 5 billion by 2018, up from 4.1 billion in 2013, and more than 10 billion mobile-ready devices, including machine-to-machine connections by then, up from 7 billion in 2013. In today's trivia tidbit, on this day in 1957, the American invasion begins as Bill Haley and the Comets storm Britain. They were in England, disembarking from the Queen Elizabeth at Southampton and preparing to launch the first European tour ever by a major American rock and roll act. The first time I ever felt a tingle up my spine was when I saw Bill Haley and the Comets on the telly, said Paul McCartney. Then I went to see them live. The ticket was 24 shillings. I've still got the ticket stub in my wallet, McCartney said. Today's trivia question: what 1955 movie was Haley's classic Rock Around the Clock first featured in? Now, Joel wasn't born yet, so he didn't see its inaugural debut, but Joel, do you have a guess on what 1955 movie was Haley's classic Rock Around the Clock first featured in? Any idea?
American Graffiti.
No. Anyone else? Yes or no questions. I'll answer yes or no questions.
Yes or no questions. Who's that dude with the hair? That not Jimmy Dean or what was that guy's name? There was Rebel Without a Cause.
That was James Dean.
James Dean.
But that's not a movie.
Okay. All right. I give up.
Give up. Is anyone? Let me check the chat here. Has anyone been? Well, Shubs didn't put it in the chat. Well, yeah, he just Shubs. It took him 2 hours to get here. I'm not excusing any of this, just so everyone knows. I'm gonna be.
It was pretty rough out
I'm gonna
there,
be really
Shubs.
mean to him the rest of the day, though. You know. So
I'll have to be extra nice to Shubs just to make up for Joe's.
we'll have to balance. We're hedging our.
A little yin and yang, a little good cop, bad cop,
That's
if
right.
you will.
That's right.
What about J Dot here?
J-Dot, what do you got here, my man?
Rock Around the Clock?
No.
Rock Around the Clock, the
The
movie.
answer, ladies and gentlemen, is Blackboard Jungle. The song, initially a B-side, played over the film's opening credits and several other times. The record had been released the previous year, gaining only limited sales, but popularized by its use in the film, it reached #1 on the Billboard charts and remained there for 8 weeks. Blackboard Jungle is a social commentary film about teachers in an inner-city school and is based on the novel of the same name by Evan Hunter. That wraps it up for me, ladies and gentlemen. Just a reminder, the show would not be possible without our dear friends at Options House. They'll give you 150 commission-free trades just for signing up for an account through this page. There's buttons at the top, at the bottom right. They're in green and orange. They say Options House. Get 150 commission-free trades, so go ahead, click through, open an account, get those 150 commission-free trades just because you listen to Benzinga's pre-market prep. So now I'm going to hand it over to my main man, Slava Dabadoo over here, who's going to give us ratings ahead of the bell.
Ratings and a couple of quick earnings previews for tonight. And I did also want to highlight our handy-dandy chat. I had one of our great writers that I was talking to this morning. He said, "What chat?" And I said, Wow, this is going to be a good opportunity for me to highlight the chat. So if you are on the Options House page and you're watching Joel's screen share there, just scroll down a little bit more. You see we're highlighting Brian Sozzi as a special guest today, and just below that there is a live chat. Join the chat. We got quite a nice little community that is growing. If you have any issues that you'd like Joel or Dennis to take a look at, throw a stock in there. We'll take a look at some of the technicals, maybe see if there's any news on it. But go ahead and join the chat. It ends up being pretty fun each morning.
They have issues with Dennis. They don't have issues with me.
What issue could they possibly
I
have
get it.
with Dennis? How could anyone complain about Dennis? Dennis is wonderful.
Oh, okay. Dennis is going to have to start coming in the office more.
Dennis, we love you, Dennis. I just want you to know that we're big Dennis Dick fans here at the Benzinga News Desk. Joel, not so much. We could do without him. But Dennis, we can't live without you.
Joe, I wanted to ask you, Glitzy Gala, was that you or is that Shubs? Because I like that one. A little alliteration there.
Glitzy Gala, you mean for the Samsung?
I think that's what you were talking about.
That was a color from the source that I pulled it from, which was the New York Times.
Ah, New York Times getting a little literary there. So let's see, what do we got for some of the major upgrades, downgrades this morning? I got about 7 or 8 top upgrades, only about 5 of those downgrades this morning. BMO Capital upgrading shares of Church and Dwight to outperform this morning. Jeffries upgrading shares of Steel Dynamics, Sandy Tango, Lima Delta to buy. Also, Archer Daniels Midland getting upgrades at both Citigroup and Scotiabank. Citigroup now rating Archer Daniels Midland with a buy rating. This one is, I forget how to say this company, Becton Dickinson, BDX. That one almost slipped by me. Upgraded at Raymond James this morning. The firm previously had on an underperform rating. They moved that to market perform. Morgan Stanley upgrading shares of Valet, that is Victor Alpha Lima Echo. Upgraded that one to overweight. Joel, not sure if your platform is going to like this one, but you may want to take a look at this one on that Morgan Stanley upgrade.
Symbol again, please.
It is VALE, Victor Alpha Lima Echo.
I think okay here. Well,
This is like the Brazilian metals and mining company.
Let's give that a second to warm up. Go ahead and see if I can get that one to come up.
All right, I'll just keep going then. Let me know. D.A. Davidson upgrading shares of Zions Bancorp from neutral to buy this morning, and the last one, Keefe Bruyette and Woods upgrading shares of Hartford Financial from market perform to outperform. Hartford had earnings, let me see, I believe it was 2 nights ago. It was last night, actually. Nope, it was 2 nights ago. And Hartford shares, let's see, had a weak performance yesterday. On Monday, found the results, and then Tuesday got a little pop. Yesterday, we're sort of continuing higher on that KBW upgrade this morning. Did the old valet pull up for you, Joel?
It did. It got it going here. Looking at this issue, did have multiple tops to contend with. This is an ADR, so you got to be careful. You had 3 out of the last 5 highs. 1374 to 1379 is the actual double top. After that, you could be sneaking into the 14 handle. You did get a close at 1361, trading up a little bit here in the pre-market. So getting a little running start into that resistance.
Joel, why did you say watch out for this one being an ADR? What is the significance of an ADR when it comes to technicals?
Well, it's so much technicals is you're trading against guys that are trading on the primary exchange where the majority.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, they have a little bit of a heads up when a big order comes in to their primary market, and they can kind of take advantage of the people in the S market. I mean, that's kind of Dennis's take on trading some of the ADRs here.
Fair enough.
Well, a couple minutes before the open here, and no bottom yet in 3D systems yet here. People are just taking this.
What's
thing.
it down now?
Now it
Holy cow! Wow.
Yeah.
$18. You see that?
It is down. It is trying to find the bottom here. No luck as of yet. We had talked about some monthly lows in the $58 area. It's taking that out here. Pre-market low 57.22. 2 minutes ahead of the open, folks. I would keep an eye on that 57.22 here. If it doesn't get back down there, maybe look for a little bit of a rebound because there has to be some happy shorts on here. And then we're going to get Jake on, and we can discuss when the street. We should pull up some of these street analysts when this stock was at 85, 90 bucks. They were hopping on the 3D printing bandwagon with 3D systems, and then let's look at some of the others in that sector. I'm sure they're following suit.
Oh yeah.
Was this the one that got things started with the
With the 3D printing?
yeah, well, with the downward guidance? Was it?
Yeah, I believe so. I could pull up the news in the pro feed here. Let me see if I can scroll back really quick while you take a look.
Yeah, I mean, who needs charts? I mean, just listen to what the companies are telling you about this. When a company comes out and tells you, "Hey, we're not going to do as good as expected," you gotta kind of believe them here. If you're looking at this issue, made a spike low at 40.09, 40 even and 40.09, so we'll use that as a support point. If it comes back down to that area. Haven't traded. This is kind of a newer stock too. Huge move off the IPO. Had a low at 37.11 in May of this year. So S&Ps have come all the way back. We got our hands. We got a 10-point rally on our hands. 34 and a quarter. Got within a tick of the low from yesterday and a couple points below the low of the move here. What I'm looking for is to get above settlement here, to get above that 43.75 high and get back up, maybe test the market high. But maybe a little gift here after selling off so hard in the pre-market. Now we're getting it back, but seem to be losing momentum quickly.
Before I hand over to Jake, I did just want to highlight a couple of the earnings that will be out tonight. We did talk about Twitter. We also have tonight after the close, we'll be getting earnings from Allstate, Pandora, Green Mountain Coffee Factory. Coffee Roasters is the correct company name for that one. Also Yelp, Conway, Akamai, Prudential, and one more Marathon. So just quick heads up for those tonight.
Okay, S&Ps still down just about a buck here. Did have a low at 34 and a quarter in the pre-market. Not sure what brought us back up in that 10-point rally here, but right now trying to challenge the settlement price. Not much of any kind of bounce here in 3D systems here. Just made a low at 56.52, down 19 bucks. X1 here has not taken out its pre-market low. It could very quickly here. Had a pre-market low at 40. And then the other one in the sector that we could take a look at here, SSYS, that is trading, got the symbol right on that one. That one is trading, yeah, that's trading down as well. That made a low in the pre-market at 103.23, but seems to be holding up a little bit better. If you're going to try and play this 3D systems long here, you might want to wait for it to go back to that quick opening high at 58.50. So, Jake, what do you got on the radar?
Good morning. Another one of those 3D printers I want to take a look at is VoxelJet. That's Victor, Juliet, Echo, Tango. It's the smallest of the publicly traded 3D printing names in the space. It's also down 10%, but it looks like it's about to maybe not about to, but on the way to testing the $30 level, which would be real interesting if it breaks through there. So, Joel, any thoughts on VJet there?
It's smallest, you mean, as in like market cap?
Market cap, yeah. I mean, they also got attacked by Citroen earlier, because in their first quarter, I guess this year, they only sold 2 3D printers total. They do like industrial 3D printers, but I guess they're expecting to sell between 50 and 60 now, which is huge for the company. So it's just an interesting story to follow. They recently IPO'd, market cap of was about 300 million, so not a large company by any means, but trading down just 11% right now, so really taking a hit.
Right, there's just no good news here. This thing just hit a low at 29.55 here, but has recovered. That was a pre-market low. Holding in there at 30. Gap down. You do have a low at 30.15 here back in October on October 28th. So really needs to hold this $30 level. And just Brent, while Jake's moving on to his next thing here, could add SWI has earnings today. That's after the close, correct?
SWI Solar Wind. Oh, I haven't heard about them in a while actually. They're down a little bit right now, but yeah, I haven't heard about them in a while.
After the close today. Okay, just let.
Should be interesting.
Well, you hope it goes the way of Solar City and not the way of First Solar. Goldman nailed that one.
No
here.
kidding.
Yeah, it's kind of been in a tight. Last few trading set, like last couple of weeks, been trading between 39 and the high 40s here. So, like to see a bust above 41 here to get to get the momentum back up to the former high of the move over $42. Below $39. Better look out here. Not a lot of support in the issue.
One of the companies reporting earnings this morning was Merck, Mike Romeo Kilo. The company reported EPS of 88 cents, which was right in line with estimates. Revenues came in at 11.32 billion versus expected 11.36 billion. So Merck, kind of a mixed report there. Matching on the bottom line, slightly missing on the top there. They also released some guidance expecting the fiscal year 2014 EPS to come in between 335 and 353. The street was looking for 347, so kind of puts it dead center in the range. Guiding sales 42.4 billion to 43.2 billion. Street was looking for 43.5, so kind of keeping things right in line there. So want to kind of keep an eye on Merck here with that report. Joel, any thoughts on Merck this morning?
55.51 was the initial spike in the issue. Since then, has been finding support at the $54 level. Had a little pre-market support there as well. You've had taken out the high of the move here, so you're just kind of running into uncharted waters. Previous high of the move, 54.10. That coincides with the pre-market low. So good to go north here in Merck as long as we can hold that $54 level. Haven't seen these levels really since 2008 when the stock came down really hard off the $61 level. Had a 61.18 high back in January of 2008. So kind of uncharted waters if you really want a crazy upside target here. Dennis didn't mention much size at 55, but perhaps a pre-market high of 55.5 will attract some sellers as well.
Another report I want to hop into is Ralph Lauren Romeo Lima. They reported the third quarter results this morning. EPS came in at 257 versus expected 251, while revenues came in at 2.02 billion, which were right in line. So Ralph Lauren, beating on the bottom line there, matching on the top, trading up a little bit this morning. So definitely want to kind of keep an eye on them. No major guidance out of the company yet, but going to keep an eye on that because would expect to see some sometime this morning. What is it, Ralph Lauren trading up about 1%? I guess they're trading up a little bit more the last time I looked, but over I guess maybe heading for that 160 level. Who knows? Any thoughts here, Joel?
Did you see where this thing opened up at? It opened up at 163.82, hit 164.13, and it went down 9 straight dollars. So, man, if you were playing that thing off the open here and you were getting long, I sure hope you had a tight stop in. That 164 level, 164.13. High coincides with the high that you had on January 21st at 164.08. So after that kind of open and then that kind of drop, I guess I would try and keep an eye on the 50% retracement on this. Perhaps 160 may be a level, but holy smokes, someone really dumped some stock off the open there. Already filled the gap. If you go back down to that 155.40 low that we've had so far in the session, you find support at the close and the low 153.70, 154.18.
Another earnings report I want to take a look at from this morning was Humana, which came in at a loss of 19 cents, which expected gain of 95 cents. That seems like it might be a little bit off there, but Humana Hotel Uniform Mike, I think that may be an unadjusted number there. Gonna pull up that chart there. We did get earnings from them. I think it's kind of interesting to take a look at some of these healthcare players, but they are trading down 2.6%. So whether or not that was adjusted, or whether or not there was an adjusted number coming out of that, that still is looking like a poor report. Any thoughts on Humana this morning, Joel?
They knocked it down off the open 91 low, quickly hit 90.46, but now have turned around, and now you're actually at a kind of an interesting juncture here for the issue after this exciting 4.5 point rally. You're right back up at yesterday's low, which was 95.31 here. So I think you got to use that area as resistance here after trading as low as it did. Coming back on the downside here, you're probably going to have some people wishing they covered that short earlier. So if you get a pullback, maybe 50% of that 4.5 point move, 2.25. Look for support at the 93.25 level.
Another one, last earnings from this morning I want to take a look at is IAC Interactive. EPS came in at 88 cents, just expected 91 cents. So that's definitely something to look at. IAC Interactive is one of those companies that I don't feel like a lot of people consider, but they own Ask.com, they own Match.com, they own a bunch of like internet properties. So they're one of the major internet players, but I feel like a lot of people kind of leave them out of the discussion when you want to talk about how, whether they're social names or whether they're internet names. This company seems to get left out, but definitely an interesting company to watch. They're down roughly 4% right now. Joel, that's the ticker there for anyone that's on their own charts is India Alpha Charlie India. Any thoughts on this one?
Indy
IACI is the ticker there. So trading down like right around $66 right now. Looks like maybe testing that sometime soon. Definitely an interesting move here.
Okay, let me take a look at this one here. IACI, can't say I've heard of this thing. Has had a drop here. Hasn't quite filled the gap. It had that big gap move up over 60 to 63.75 is the gap. Came down to 64.45 here. I think as long as you can stay above that 63.75 low, looks good to the upside here, but looks like it's getting a little tired here. Maybe a couple more days down in this area and a couple more closes, it'll get back. Wouldn't like to own it if you got back into that gap area.
So, that kind of covers the earnings I'm most interested in this morning, but we do have a lot coming in after the close. Namely, I think everyone's primarily focused on Twitter. Obviously expected to bring in a loss of 2 cents for its first report, while revenues are expected to come in at $217.78 million. So it should be interesting to see where it goes. I don't think the numbers there are most interesting. Again, I think I've been harping on this long enough that I'm more interested in seeing what they say on the conference call, what kind of verbiage they use, how transparent they are, and all that. So Twitter after the close today should be interesting. Joel, what are you thinking about it for today's session? I mean, I guess I would expect a lot of people not wanting to trade it today, kind of maybe trading flat before these earnings because no one knows what it's going to be. I can't imagine how insanely expensive options are on this one right now. Any thoughts here?
Got a pop, had a double top at the 66.40 level and took that out. Actually, took that out off the open, 67.25, 67.16 open, 67.25 high. Then you came back down, went 2 cents below the close here. So I keep an eye. I think you get back up over 67. You're going to find your sellers. 66.30 is good support here. Takes out 66.30. You got some room on the downside here. Really no good numbers in there under the intraday low of 66.30.
Another one we've got after the close is Pandora Media, expected to bring in an EPS of 8 cents versus the prior quarter, which was a loss of 4 cents. Revenues expected to come in just shy of 650 million. The last time around, it was doing 427 million. So some serious growth expected from Pandora. Ticker is just Papa there. That's the internet radio provider. Definitely, been kind of there's been a lot of people, including myself, speculating that maybe this this isn't a huge this maybe this company may be in trouble because of companies like Spotify or Apple Radio, but I mean so far Pandora's been having a great year. Joel, any thoughts on it before we get these earnings after the close today?
35.80 was your close yesterday. That's below the all-time high close of 36.53 here. So I'd keep an eye. I'd like to see it hold that close at 35.80. Doesn't look like it's going to be able to do it right now. Kind of bouncing around there. Don't see much under the intraday low, 35.52. I think you could easily get down under 35 bucks if that 52 low doesn't hold. Yesterday's low at 34.77.
The last one I will look at after the close today is Yelp. We're gonna have kind of a group of social names coming out. They're expected to report a loss of 3 cents versus the expected the loss last time around of 6 cents. Revenue is going to come in supposed to at 67.26 million versus the last time around, which was 41.16 million. So between Yelp, Pandora, and Twitter and IACI, even though a lot of people leave them out, we're getting a really kind of a good feel for how the internet sector and the social sector is doing today.
Kind of on a nice run here, not including today's session. You've had 3 higher highs, almost 3 higher lows. Not quite, but a couple higher closes. I don't know. It looks like it's just getting a little tired here. Hit 78.50 earlier in the session. That was 30 cents above the 29 cents above yesterday's high, 78.21 here. Needs to get back above that close, 77.89, or I think we can fall back down under the 77 level. Really not a good support point until you get to the low from yesterday at 75.19. Before we close out the show here, GGB is thinking of buying the Feb 22 strike, 250 bid, 75. 8. Let's take it ATXH. Take a look at that. That sounds like a pharma stock here. No. 250 strike already looks like it's pretty good in the money here. So let's take a look at the chart. See what we're looking at. It's come down hard here off the $4 level. Hit 433. I think it's still good to go here as long as you hold that 328 low. 338 was the low in today's session. 3 lows in a row, or not in a row, but let's see here. You have a low, 332, 342, and 338. So as long as it holds that 332 level, I think it's good to go to the upside. Below that, you got a lot of air underneath it. I guess you could buy the option as opposed to the stock here, but under 332, not a lot of support until you get under the $3 level. Well, that's our show for today, folks. Thanks for participating with the questions. Hope you enjoyed Mr. Sozzi, and we'll be back with you tomorrow.